It makes me angry. 2 years old, full of life.
Everyone just fell in love with her.
2-year-old Arianna missing under the most suspicious of circumstances.
It is very rare that you see cases like this.
Do you believe that Arianna is still alive?
Very vibrant, beautiful young child. Now it's a search for Arianna.
This has remained an active investigation since the very first day.
Her mother, Nikki Fitz, found in a shallow grave.
This location is very interesting because it is right along a pedestrian path, which made it possibly easier for them to gain access to this location.
There is no way that she deserved what happened to her.
Somebody out there knows what happened. We need them to come forward.
We continue to actively investigate this case. We will continue to investigate as long as it takes to find out what happened.
I'm Paul Holes. This is Real Life Nightmare.
The two words that come to mind most when describing Nicole is warm and trusting. She was born in Southern California, the middle of two sisters. She had a younger sister, older sister, very close with her mom, very involved in family activities.
We were always the closest when we were kids. I mean, we did everything together. My mom would actually often dress us the same, so people always thought we were twins.
She was involved in scouting and doing Girl Scouts, something that she did a lot with her mom.
Growing up, there was 3 of us girls and my mom, who we all grew up together, and Nikki was just 1 year older than I am.
Had a pretty rough childhood, and then her mom passed away of breast cancer at the age of 16. Certainly a pretty pivotal moment for her.
To describe Nikki, I would say probably just one of the most generous and sweetest people you could ever meet. Just thought of everyone before herself.
She was just so warm and welcoming. So yeah, we became friends quickly.
Nikki was a single mother of 2 children, and Nikki dedicated everything she did to taking care of her kids.
I would say that Arianna was a little spoiled by Nikki. Not overly spoiled, but I think Arianna kind of knew how to get her way, you know.
You know, it wasn't always easy. Being a single parent, but, she made it a priority and did absolutely whatever needed to be done for them.
Nicole certainly had some financial struggles, as many people do who live in the Bay Area, and for a time was living in a women's shelter in San Mateo County. But she was a single mother raising 2 girls.
Realistically, we all have struggles, and, living in an expensive city, it's tough, and she definitely struggled with that, but she fought through it. Claire and I had moved to Santa Cruz. Nikki started working at Best Buy after we had moved.
I first met Nicole when we worked at Best Buy, and over a period of time, Nicole and I became more and more friends, going out to lunch during our break times, during our lunch times, and pretty much just hanging out all the time soon after that. And one day after work, when I was going home, she followed with me, and I was taking a lift back home, and I asked where she was going. She said she didn't have anywhere to go, and that's when I found out that she didn't have anywhere to stay. She was homeless at the time.
A mother of 2, Nicole Fitz's older daughter was being taken care of by family.
Nicole's goal was to find a safe place for Arianna to live. She wanted to have a place for both her daughters so they could have that sort of upbringing that I think she always wanted for her girls.
But as Nicole struggled to get back on her feet, who was taking care of the younger daughter, Arianna? Arianna's father didn't have any involvement in her life.
With Arianna, Nicole had caretakers that were watching her. And obviously, Nicole's having to work in order to pay, in essence, for daycare while she's...
Yeah, she wants to get to a position where she can have her own place, and at the same time, she's trying to earn money to provide for the people who are looking after Arianna.
She had always been with the babysitters when she was working, so I thought, it was just something that she was still doing.
Unfortunately, I didn't know the babysitters by name. When Nikki would talk about, the people who were caring for Arianna, she would mostly just say the babysitters is how she referred to them when she would talk about them. We didn't talk every day. We talked a couple times a week, but we didn't talk every day. So, it wasn't unusual that I hadn't heard from Nikki in a couple of days. And I was driving, Claire and I were driving, and I got a text message from my oldest sister, and the message said, "Hey, is Nikki missing?" And I was like, "What? No, I just talked to her a couple days ago." I open up Facebook, and the first thing I see is a post from Nikki's best friend indicating that she hadn't been seen at work for a couple of days and hadn't been seen by anybody for a couple of days.
I received a phone call from a mutual friend and someone that we both worked with, and she called me and said Nicole had never came home, and I was like, "What do you mean? I was with Nicole and I dropped her off." "Well, what do you mean?" And she said she had left after she came home and just never returned.
I was actually driving, and I had to pull over immediately. Yeah.
Police were definitely contacted that night.
We want to speak to everyone who interacted with Nicole in the last hours and days leading up to her disappearance.
We looked through Nikki's social media as well as Nikki's Facebook to try to see who we could, connect with, maybe a coworker or someone in San Francisco who she associates with. While looking through Nikki's Facebook, we definitely saw something very unusual.
In San Francisco, a mother of two, Nicole Fitz, goes missing after work.
Nicole Fitz was 32 years old. She disappeared on April the 1st, 2016.
One of Nicole's last known locations was this Best Buy on Harrison Street in San Francisco, where she worked. Investigators coming to Best Buy and getting video surveillance of her movements through the store, as well as her leaving the store at the end of shift, would be something that would be highly scrutinized.
According to a crime bulletin from the San Francisco PD, Nicole Fitz received a mysterious call the day she vanished at approximately 9 p.m. She was lured out of her home to, quote, "go meet the babysitter."
I've never heard her kind of like just take off in the middle of the night.
San Francisco PD has stated that Nicole took a minibus to go meet someone she knew. One day after Nicole Fitz disappears, Nicole's roommate receives a strange text message.
And the family, they were concerned because Nicole didn't know a Sam, and she definitely didn't have a car.
The supposed destination, Fresno, California, is almost 200 miles from San Francisco.
It was just really confusing to me. I didn't hear anything about her wanting to leave or going to leave for Fresno at any time.
While looking through Nikki's Facebook, we definitely saw something very unusual. It was a post that supposedly Nikki had created that read, "Going away with my 3-year-old, need this break." And, that just didn't seem right to us at all.
The message was also posted on April 2nd, the day after Nicole Fitz went missing.
It was such a strange message anyway, like just such a strange, it just, it didn't sit right.
Arianna was only 2.5 at the time, and, this post at 3, and no parent is going to age their child. Brake was spelled wrong. It was spelled like brakes on a car instead of the correct way, and Nikki was very good with grammar and spelling.
Those posts, in all likelihood, were put there by the offender. This is a form of staging, and any time an offender does staging, that means that they are likely thinking that they would naturally become a suspect. Investigatively, this is huge because depending on the device that the offender used and the information they can get from the social media company, the telephone companies, this might give insight as to whether this was something that was done from a computer, from Nicole's phone, from their own phone. And this can give location information that can be used to hunt them down.
We basically started profiling people, including ourselves, and just started with immediate family, our relationship to her, approximate last time we saw her, or last time we interacted with her.
We didn't know the people she associated with. We hadn't really met them.
The family starts taking a closer look at Arianna's caretakers, known as the babysitters.
She might have mentioned them by name at one point or another, but typically she referred to them as the babysitters, and that they were sisters. We knew the locations of where the babysitters lived, but we hadn't really had any interactions with them.
It was just shock to see that no one had heard from her for a couple days.
If Nikki had been missing, if they hadn't heard from Nikki about taking care of her child, I would assume that they would try to reach out to us.
It was probably about a 3-day search for us, and we had been in contact with multiple police departments. The 3 days that we were looking, we weren't sure if Nikki was with Arianna or not.
That question would be answered just a few days later with a shocking, significant discovery at this San Francisco park.
Today is 6 years.
6 years ago. 6 years. Nicole was last seen on the night of April 1st, 2016.
6 years of heartache and uncertainty.
Just fear, just complete fear. What could have happened, to my sister? My sister and I were in a coffee shop, and we get a call from a detective at the Hall of Justice in San Francisco, and I was very excited for that call because it felt like, yes, something's happening. Like we're really gonna find her. And so my sister and we go down to the Hall of Justice, and I have a one-on-one interview with one of the detectives there. And when we're done, he wants to. He tells my sister and I to go and take a little break. Then he calls us back in. And he says, "This is the hardest thing I have to tell you." and I don't let him finish because I know what he's going to tell me. April 8th, after 3 days of looking for Nikki, we were told that she was found dead.
At 10:30 a.m., Parks and Rec employees found Nicole's body at San Francisco's McLaren Park.
It was pretty much a blank after that. I remember just having my head down and just crying my eyes out. And my sister coming to hug me.
Shortly after I arrived, they informed me that Nikki was found. It was just the worst. It was just the worst.
Nicole was the type of person that would kind of do almost anything for you, and knowing that she was killed, it didn't make any sense. So I just was just sitting and thinking, what happened?
San Francisco police revealed Nicole Fitz was found still wearing her Best Buy shirt.
Was there any indication she was killed at the location where her body was found, or do you think that she was killed elsewhere?
So we're going to hold back on the cause of death, because there's some relevance there, as this is still a very active investigation.
Could you kind of explain from your perspective the reason why bits of information that might be useful for the public to know but is not being put out there?
I can certainly understand the public's frustration when law enforcement has to be intentionally vague or hold back aspects of the case. Our main goal is to find Arianna.
So I found out Arianna was missing basically when I found out that Nikki had been murdered.
My understanding is there had been some time between when Nicole last saw Arianna and when her body was found.
Anytime we work a missing persons case or a missing children's case, the timeline is critical. Due to some extraordinary circumstances, Nicole found herself living apart from Arianna in those last few months. Nicole was working diligently to have enough money, to have enough means that she could provide that safe and comfortable housing for both her daughters. In all of her efforts to do that, she was in regular communication with those who were looking after Arianna, but she did find manipulation and she did find obstruction in those efforts in the last months of her life.
What hasn't been revealed is the exact last time or the last person to see Arianna before her mother's death.
Now it's a search for Arianna, because if Nikki was the only one who was found, then where is Arianna?
In this case, we're pretty confident we searched that whole McLaren Park.
And you're confident that Arianna is not out there?
We are confident.
Part of any search of this type of terrain, I imagine, must have used dogs trained in order to detect if there's any human remains out there.
I can't talk to the specifics of it right now, but we did go out there multiple times, so it wasn't just the day she was found.
So why are the offenders choosing right here? Well, at this location, there is no street lights. So they would be doing this under the cover of darkness. They could have gone and disposed of Nicole's body, gotten back into the vehicle, and literally driven down this street on their escape. It would have just taken them a couple of minutes.
A crime bulletin by San Francisco's PD identifies the name of the babysitter.
Someone called me and said, I got somebody I need for you to talk to. They've been interviewed already. The police wants to interview them a second time. They need to talk to you. So I got that phone call, and that introduced me to Helena Martin.
2-year-old Arianna went missing under the most suspicious of circumstances in the San Francisco Bay Area in 2016. Her mother, Nikki Fitz, was found in a shallow grave in San Francisco's McLaren Park, but Arianna was gone.
I also want to make a plea to people out there to actually look at this as a single mother who was trying to do the right thing, was working full time, and is trying to manage her life, and she lost her life.
And we have to remember that Nicole had an older daughter who, for obvious reasons, for her safety, we're not going to mention. But since Arianna's disappearance, she's had to grow up without her baby sister.
I would do anything to find her. I want nothing more than to bring her home.
When it comes to April 1st, which was the last day that anyone saw Nicole, the last thing that she was doing was she was going to meet with the people who were looking after Arianna. So she told her roommate that that's where she was going to do. That was a pretty frequent aspect because Nicole at that point had been really working diligently to get Arianna back, and she was having some difficulty from the people who were looking after her. But on her last night, she was communicating with those individuals and was going to meet them.
It became pretty clear pretty quickly that there was a connection between someone taking Nikki's life and someone having Arianna.
So you have a homicide of Nicole, definitely SFPD jurisdiction. And then the missing girl case, 2-year-old Arianna, that's federal jurisdiction. Is it possible that these are two unrelated crimes?
You know, we're confident that they are linked.
While we don't believe that Arianna was with Nicole at the time of her death, we do believe that Arianna's disappearance and Nicole's death are certainly related to each other.
So in all likelihood, there's probably another location related to this case that is unknown.
I think there's certainly other aspects, that are relevant to this case beyond just the location of where Nicole's body was found.
They were able to determine that Helena Martin had been a babysitter for Arianna, and somehow they were able to find her and interview her. After the interview, they wanted to interview her again, and Helena contacted me. I know that the investigation reached out to her husband. He never babysat the baby. He never looked after her. He never cared for her. He just lived in the same home with Helena. But as far as I can remember, Helena was the only one that was responsible for babysitting the baby.
People I hadn't heard from in 10 years jumped on to express some sort of concern. Here are the people who care for Arianna daily and nothing.
We had picked Nikki and Arianna up from the babysitters in Oakland, who we later learned were Helena and Devin Martin.
What I remember is after she did the interview, somehow her name got leaked to the media. So it went from Helena was the last person to see the baby to Helena is a suspect. So she got an awful lot of attention. I believe the FBI came over with a search warrant. It went from, I just want to talk about when was the last time you babysat this kid, to all of these searches. And that's when it became clear to her that this wasn't going to be a regular interview without divulging any attorney-client privilege. I can say that I know that they searched her home, they searched her phone, they searched her storage area, they took DNA from her car, every possible thing that you could do to see if there's some evidence of some type of connection to this was done, and there wasn't anything there. From everything that I remember, there wasn't a family relationship. They weren't related. They didn't go to school together. They didn't have a social relationship. It was purely, you drop the baby off, You pay me, you pick the baby up. So there wasn't any extended relationship, and that was, I think, reflected in the search of the phone. And there weren't phone calls to Nicole. They didn't have any casual relationship. It was purely babysitting.
This information underscores that investigators are leaving no stone unturned.
Both the FBI and the San Francisco Police Department believe that there are people out there with knowledge, whether direct or indirect, that is relevant to this case.
I'm standing at the very spot where Nicole's body was found in a fetal position in a shallow grave that was just 3 feet wide.
This was actually a neighborhood park, and this was a playground, Lewis Sutter Playground. It's like in a flat area adjacent to homes in the area.
And so this is unusual to be finding a victim of a homicide at this particular location.
Yes.
Nicole's body was found really within just a few dozen feet of a primary road next to the park. Her body was placed behind a barrier of vegetation. This was easy access to the offender. They wanted to position Nicole's body so there wouldn't be visibility from the street.
In that grave was Nicole Fitz, and there was plywood over the grave with a marking on it.
It may have been something used to help carry the body, and if it had been like a stretcher, then it required 2 people to carry Nicole's body on the piece of plywood. It also is something that is being used to cover her body inside this shallow grave, to hide her, to delay discovery.
The piece of plywood is an interesting bit of evidence because it has a unique symbol on that piece of plywood that I think somebody would recognize having seen it.
It is absolutely significant because it provides a unique characteristic to this piece of plywood that somebody in the public might recognize. They may have seen this piece of plywood at the offender's house, in the bed of the offender's pickup if he's driving a pickup, or someplace else. So it is hugely significant to pay attention to the plywood and the symbol that is on the plywood.
Someone must know something, and we need our community to rally around this family. And if someone knows something, they need to say something.
The FBI also expands the investigation to Nevada.
So we're certainly interested in the Bay Area. Nicole and her family spent significant time here. But we know that there are individuals with information, potential witnesses, who have since moved out of the Bay Area. So between the Bay Area, the entire state of California, as well as some who have relocated to Nevada. Not only have we been able to glean more from the evidence that was originally collected in the case, but in the last 6 years, we've also come up with new evidence related to Nicole's murder and Arianna's disappearance.
It sounds like to me that whoever is involved in this case should be getting nervous.
I would certainly hope so.
Young mother Nicole Fitz was found brutally murdered and buried in a park. And police are desperately searching for her missing 2-year-old daughter, Arianna.
We've been thinking about this every day. Every day we work on Nicole, and we work on Arianna, but we don't want their memories to fade into the background as time passes. Our main goal is twofold. We want to find those responsible for Nicole's death, and more than anything else, we want to find Arianna.
She's just so smart and so sweet and just the cutest, bubbly.
Arianna Fitz's case landed on our radar from her aunt Tess. She contacted the organization because she ran into a number of barriers in trying to find her toddler niece.
The thing that Nikki would want is to know that her daughter is home with her family. So that gives me the strength to do whatever is necessary in the search for Arianna.
When Tess reached out to us, we, wanted Arianna to be a household name too.
I do trust that that the detectives and people investigating, I do trust that they are telling me what they can.
I haven't heard from an investigator. She hasn't heard from an investigator for some time now. I think there was some evidence that she cared for the baby, babysat the baby, last in January or early February of 2016. And she told me, as much as it's worth someone telling you something, that she had nothing to do with the death of Nicole Fitz and the missing daughter.
There are other items of evidence, and we're forensically looking at every single item, but sometimes we also need that dynamic, that relationship with the item and how it fits into the whole crime.
According to family and friends, in the months before she went missing, Nicole Fitz was in a toxic living situation. Things turned sour with the female roommate who let Nicole rent a room.
She was kind of telling me the situation that was going on with Limasani, and just like the complete disrespect that she was having for her, the way she was treating her. And, I told Nikki, I was like, just say the word and, we'll come and get you in Arianna.
And we went to Limasani's so that Nikki could pick up her things and Arianna's things, because Nikki was done. She wanted to move out. She wanted to get out, and she came home to Santa Cruz with us that day. But Limasani refused. She refused to give Nikki any of her things. The most we got was Arianna's car seat. We didn't get Arianna's care package, like her diapers. We didn't get any snacks that she might have had. We didn't get any of Arianna's toys.
When I did learn that Arianna's babysitters were relatives of Limasani, I did have some concern about that. I didn't think it was a good idea.
From an evidentiary standpoint, there have been tremendous advances in the fields of forensic evidence, in the fields of genetics. Additionally, our capabilities in terms of exploiting digital evidence have grown leaps and bounds.
Extremely unlikely that I would ever allow her to be interviewed again. I think it's also unlikely that they're ever going to find anything that attaches her to the case.
Not only have we been able to glean more from the evidence that was originally collected in the case, but in the last 6 years, we've also come up with new evidence related to Nicole's murder and Arianna's disappearance. I'm going to be a little bit vague as to what that evidence indicates and what it is, but it is certainly providing a more complete picture of what happened.
There is potentially a little girl, Arianna, that is out there and is with somebody. So now an outreach to the public is so critical to have people looking for Arianna.
Do you believe that Arianna is still alive?
A mom is found murdered and buried in a park in San Francisco, and a desperate search for her missing 2-year-old daughter is underway.
We continue to hold on to hope that someone will come forward with information as to what happened to Arianna and can help bring her home alive and safe, and we can get answers as to who murdered her mother.
Nicole's body was found just within a few dozen feet of a prime road right next to McLaren Park. All they had to do was park on this road and bring her body to this location. This tells me they had some familiarity.
This investigation is not going to end. We are not going away. We're going to keep at this.
It has been almost 60 years, and we continue to search for Arianna.
We're always looking at forensics. We're looking at all leads that might help solve the case. But many times there's always that one person that can help us and give us some information on what was Nicole doing that morning. Who did she talk to?
Do you believe that Arianna is still alive?
I hope Arianna's still alive. We're going to proceed in this case that we have a missing child, and we're going to do everything we can to find a missing child, and that's not going to change until evidence proves elsewise.
Most likely, nothing's probably going to happen until they get another lead, until someone comes in and provides some information or something checks out that didn't check out before.
We're asking every person who saw or interacted with Nicole on that Friday or the days before to think back to that time. Try to remember who you were with, where you were, what you were doing, who you talked to, talked about, what you saw, what Nicole said, what she did.
Right now we're looking for an 8-year-old girl.
Yeah, which, I mean, obviously her physical appearance would have changed dramatically.
Her physical appearance has certainly changed. We've worked with the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. They have experts who do an age progression to come up with images of what we believe Arianna looks like today.
It's so important for us to just share this within the community.
Young children who go missing change their physical characteristics very quickly, not looking like the photos that were last taken of them. Age progression sketches are often the best guess of what they look like today when people are now looking for them.
The FBI and the San Francisco Police Department are working with NCMEC to put a with photos and age progression images of Arianna throughout California and Nevada.
She's no longer a toddler, so her features have changed, but we want people to take a closer look at her picture and see if it resonates with you, and you may have seen her.
Eager to solve the case, the San Francisco PD has increased the reward from the original $100,000.
The reason for the reward is to help us make sure that we do look at some other leads in addition to all the forensic leads and everything else that we will follow on a homicide investigation and a missing persons investigation.
And it sounds like to me, SFPD, that there's no expenses spared on this case at all.
No, not at all.
So while we've been waiting for certain individuals to come forward to talk to us about what they know, the wheels in the background in the fields of evidence and tech have been spinning dramatically.
In this case, if investigators are confident that they have offender DNA, there's been revolutionary advances within the DNA discipline. The use of genetic genealogy could possibly identify the offender, even though that person is not in a criminal DNA database.
With Arianna being so young, she may not even know, that she was abducted or kidnapped, and you wonder even if she has memories of her mother, because she spent quite a bit of time in her, formative years with her babysitter.
If anybody out there in the public sees somebody they know that all of a sudden showed up with a child, maybe claiming this young girl was adopted, or went off and came back, well, I got pregnant and now I have this young child, please pay attention. If that child looks like Arianna, call that information in to the San Francisco police.
We need the community to step up and to help us find Arianna. Share her profile. Share it within your network. Let's make her a household name.
I want the people who did this know this. The FBI and the SFPD are not stopping. They're going to keep on looking until they have someone in custody.
We are not going to stop asking the questions. And we're going to keep at this until we find Arianna and until we find those responsible for Nicole's death.
I just want to find Arianna. I want to hear her voice again. I think about them both every day. In my mind, I still hear Nikki. In my mind, I still hear Arianna. It's incredibly difficult to keep going every day, and we just need to be reunited with Arianna.
No way I thought that I was going to be told that I would never see my sister again. It makes me angry. I think it's pretty outrageous that 5 years later, the people who killed my sister aren't behind bars.
I'm Paul Holes for Real Life Nightmare. Thanks for watching.
Brand nigga from the 9-1, switch that over, that's the young blonde. I was at the West Coast, now I'm in the East Coast. Shawty